From the opening bell here, the market's tumbling on Friday with the Dow ending at its lowest point since November of 2020. The Dow below 30,000 points. That wrapped up a dismal week on Wall Street. This morning, most are hoping for a rebound amid fears of a full-scale recession. We'll break down the market activity here with the Executive Vice President of the National Taxpayers Union, Brandon Arnold. Brandon, good to see you. Thanks so much for coming on here on this Monday. Clean slate, right? You start a Monday, you start a new week. You're hoping to have a little bit of a clean slate here. Last week, you know that the Fed raised the interest rates. Markets reacted. Do you see a recovery happening?
Well, I think the concerning news right now is happening out of London. Markets are reacting to news there that there'll be a large fiscal stimulus package passed. Normally, that might be good news, but at a time when we have supply chain concerns and inflation in the UK that's actually higher than we have here in the United States, we're seeing additional concerns about that exacerbating inflation. That's what's put markets into a bit of a panic this morning, and that could last well into the week.
And you're hearing the opening bell there at the New York Stock Exchange, so we'll continue to check and see exactly what happens here as the Dow closes again below 30,000 points. But bringing it back to, the topic of inflation, 8.3%, right? Bottom line is it's still at a 40-year high. Talk to me about this. Raphael Bostic, he is the Fed Reserve president, saying the central bank is working to avoid deep, deep pain. Here's what he said about the efforts to tame inflation. Listen to this.
The economy has a lot of positive momentum. We're still creating lots of jobs on a monthly basis. And so I actually think that there is some ability for the economy to absorb our actions and slow in a relatively orderly way. We have momentum, and we should not lose sight of that as we start to see demand come down and us get inflation under control.
Your response to that, if you can, Brandon.
Well, I think that kind of glosses over the fact that we've had 2 consecutive quarters of negative economic growth. He's right in absolutely pointing to the job market, which has been strong. Labor markets have been tight, but just because the economy is growing or actually shrinking, currently, we could be in recession territory soon if we're not already there. Job markets are strong, but even wage gains, while sizable, have not been enough to keep up with inflation. So as long as inflation is out of control, we're looking at a very, very concerning period for this economy.
And we're watching it now. Okay, so a live look there. You saw the Dow opening up 75 or below 75 points there, opening again another day here in the red, getting the day started. Here again, a long day to go, but again, this has been the trend since last week, and really since those announcements there of raising interest rates. I wanted to also play this if we can. The White House doing its best to tame inflation. This is Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre. And the White House's outlook for the U.S. economy. Here's that.
So given the encouraging initial signs that we have seen on inflation and the continued strength of growth in the job market, so we believe the transition remains possible. We believe that we will get to a strong and stable growth. We believe that we will see that cooling that you hear economists talking about.
And I think a lot of Americans, they just want to be spoken to plainly, right? And it's great to have a positive outlook and hopes to tame inflation. But they're just not seeing that at this point. They're not seeing it at the grocery store, at their favorite restaurants. They're not seeing it when they take their vacations. It's costing more. The gas, in fact, gas is on the rise right now, $3.72 AAA. That is the average right now. So do you see a cool down happening anytime soon for the average American people?
Well, I mean, I hope so. I wouldn't put any faith into the word salad that we're getting out of the press office at the White House right now. I mean, it's just ridiculous rambling taking place. But the fact is, we have seen fluctuations in gas prices. After a downward trend, they began to go up again. We look at a lot of different measures, and there's a new index an index that's going to be coming out later this week that'll give us a better sense of inflation, that the Fed puts a lot of weight in the PCE. But what's most important, as you allude to, is what are Americans feeling? What are average Americans feeling when they go to the grocery store, when they go to the gas station, when they go to Target or Walmart or wherever? And right now, if you talk to people, they're very concerned. They're seeing steep price escalation in basic needs, not just food, not just energy, but clothing, core essential needs. And until that changes, people aren't going to have a lot of faith and confidence in this economic turnaround.
Yeah, and just final thoughts too. And I wanted to keep it on a common sense economy talk if we can. You mentioned, core inflation and talking about, cars, et cetera, clothing, but also rental prices, right? And the housing market. What's happening there?
Yeah, the housing market has been completely overheated, and a lot of that was fueled by low interest rates. And as we turn those interest rates, as we start to crank them up, which the Fed has done over the course of the past several months, we are beginning to see a cooling in the housing market. So that could alleviate prices, but the rental market tends to lag behind the sale market with the housing sector. So we could continue to see higher rental prices. And of course, that hits working class Americans more than just about anything. So that is very, very concerning. I don't think that's going to be going away anytime in the short term.
All right, NASDAQ up about 20 points right now. Dow, S&P 500 still in the red here. All right, Brandon, thank you so much. That is Brandon Arnold joining us live. We do appreciate that.
Thank you.
Coming up, new QR